Head over to timcast.com, click join us to become a member and support our show directly. We rely on your membership to make clips like this. Now, back to the show. Let's jump to this story. We got this tweet from Bill O'Reilly. He said, here's a Biden update from BillO'Reilly.com headquarters. The decision has been made that the president will quit the campaign. 2 reasons. Democrat internal polling says he cannot recover from the debate and fundraising is drying up. So it's over for Joe, but the White House doesn't yet know how or when to make the announcement. Stay close. I don't know how I feel about this. I think I need more confirmation than just BillO'Reilly.com. We do have this tweet from Tucker, which I trust a bit more. No disrespect to Bill O'Reilly. But he says, from an unusually good source, Obama's tweet supporting Joe Biden was disingenuous. In private, Obama is telling people Biden can't win, and he is therefore in favor of an open convention. Obama will not say whom he supports, nor as of yesterday afternoon had he met personally with Biden to deliver the message. Relations between the Obamas and the Bidens have never been warm. At times they've been hostile, but recently they've deteriorated further, mostly due to Jill Biden. So, et cetera, et cetera. Here's what I think. He says they are circling, particularly around Gretchen Whitmer. I wonder if this is all planned.
Gretchen.
It's all planned.
Awful.
The reason why we've had the issue with Ohio and Biden being on the ballot, the reason why the convention was after the due date was because they needed time to allow Biden to sink so they could justify an open convention, but that put them at odds with Ohio.
Do you think this is why they scheduled the early debate and did away with the Presidential Commission on Debate?
Yes.
A lot of people were saying it was an audition.
So that was something that I hadn't given, and I'll just say that I hadn't given that much credence to beforehand. But then as about halfway through the debate, I said, no, okay, this was right.
I don't think it was an audition because Nick Kristof had that pre-write article on the New York Times saying after watching that debate performance, Biden should drop out.
And he wrote it before the debate.
Well, what we do know is the title, Joe Biden should drop out, was made on the 25th, 2 days before the debate. So we don't know exactly what his argument was because he could have altered the text after the fact.
Sure.
Maybe the first article didn't mention the debate. Maybe it was saying this debate's going to go miserably. He should drop out now. And they held it until after the debate just in case. Either way, he pre-wrote Joe Biden should drop out before the debate happened, published it after the debate, citing the debate. I think back in November, I was saying Biden will not be the nominee. I was like, I am almost like dead sure they're not going to have him be the nominee. I still don't know for sure, but it's looking like that's the case. We didn't know exactly how they'd get him out. By March, everyone was saying it was too late. Now it's looking like it's going to be an open convention. And Biden's going to have to say, my failing health or something.
So Raskin said over the weekend, maybe there's conversations about if Biden wants to continue, but I'll tell you this, he will definitely be the keynote speaker at our convention.
The keynote speaker.
You want to be like, I don't think
speaker.
You don't know what his big issue is here, buddy. Like,
right, because he can't actually.
So here's what we reported. I'll just go back to what we reported in real time, 2021, 2022. There was a huge conversation and a huge split in the Democrat Party that lines up almost identically to what Tucker is saying now. And Tucker and I haven't shared sources on this, but I've heard from the Democrat side, and anyone who's been in D.C. long enough knows that it's the world's biggest little town, and you always run into people, Libby, you know this, that you run into people from the other side, you have friends who have friends that are on the other side, that kind of thing. And so what we always heard was that they didn't want Joe Biden to run for all of these issues. But Joe Biden refused. And that Jill Biden specifically, who's had the pants on the entire time here, the entire
saw her Vogue
time.
Cover.
You saw the Vogue cover. The body's not even warm yet, Jill. Body's not even warm yet, and she's out there. And then Kamala Harris, so they've got the competing virginal white covers, Rolling Stone and Vogue at the same time. You think that's all happening by accident? No, this is the shade war that I was reporting in real time has now broken into full-on open civil war. Day one
it was really open
of my
from
show.
the beginning. I remember Jen Psaki being like, "Oh, we don't know what Biden's going to do. He hasn't said anything." Jen Psaki, the first White House press secretary, was saying, "We don't know what's going to happen." He had somewhat promised to be a one-term president, but then you would get messaging from the Biden family like, no, of course we're going to.
And it was always the family. It was always the family holding the line there. It was Jill Biden, and I remember when she was at UPenn and her buddies with Amy Gutman, who was the president, and all the galas, and Joe Biden was walking around like her arm candy, and she is Jersey Jill, right? Jersey Jill is totally in love with the trappings of power. She was the one, by the way, who we reported at the time. She demanded that Joe Biden stick to the withdrawal date in Afghanistan. She's the one, by the way, go look, and Jackie Heinrich from Fox had the story about Jill Biden talking about our decision about when to shoot down the Chinese spy balloon.
Right.
Our decision to wait until it had already wafted across the continental United States and left the Atlantic seaboard, then we would shoot it down. Our decision. What do you mean our decision? I remember voting for Joe Biden. I don't remember voting for Joe Biden either, by the way.
Look, she thinks she's running the country, and that her
is.
man is there just for fun.
She is
In this
running
case,
the
it's true, right?
country.
It's
But the
like
other
an
part was she
Eleanor
was
Roosevelt thing.
Yeah,
Sure,
or Edith Wilson.
The thing is, she is front and center in the Vogue weddings cover with Naomi, who just got married, right? Like there is not just the
She was
desire
the
for
one
political
with
power.
Hunter Biden in Delaware. At
It's
the
not
trial.
just the desire for political power. It's also the personal prestige that she is thriving off of. I'm sure she did not like to be in Michelle Obama's shadow for 8 years, right? This is her time to be first lady.
Exactly.
And if called upon
Exactly.
to make all the executive decisions because Joe needs her, then she's willing to do that.
And
She's
I'll
such an honorable
even
lady.
throw something else out there. So last week I interviewed London Roberts. So Hunter Biden's
That was
We talked
so
to her last week,
sad.
too.
So I know,
on
I know you guys had her on, and I didn't know, and during the interview that Navy Joan was there. So the granddaughter was actually, she wasn't in the studio, but she was, she was at our place in DC, and London told me that Navy Joan. So she told her she knows who her father is and she knows who her grandfather is.
That's so
and
sad.
so
Yeah, she
and
Skypes
so
with him.
on the way
with
down,
Hunter, yeah.
because so where my studios are at the Real America's Voice place down in DC, they're very close to the White House. It's just in that vicinity. And so they said, oh, where are we going? And they mentioned this in the car. And London just says, oh, it's down by the White House. And then Navy Jones says, oh, that's where Grandpa lives, right? Are we going to go see him? And it's like, what do you say? And so I would even argue a step further and say it is not Joe Biden who demands that they don't recognize the granddaughter. As gone as Joe Biden is, I just don't see him doing that. But you know who would? The wicked stepmother. The wicked stepmother.
Who
'Cause
brings
remember,
his youngest child to the carrying in of the Christmas tree, right? The
remember,
grandchildren she's willing to acknowledge, but Navy no.
right, and remember, she's not Hunter Biden's mother. She is not the grandmother of Navy Joan. And I think this is all about spiting Hunter. It's all about the spite that they have. And I can't imagine, for all the terrible things that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden have done, for all the things they claim that Trump has done, can you think of anything worse than refusing to acknowledge your own flesh and blood?
No, I mean, didn't Trump,
knowing that she knows
Trump
that.
Trump had a child out of wedlock, right? Didn't he?
Trump?
No.
He didn't. No.
There was an allegation that he
There was an
had, and
ad-lib.
there was like a hypothetical doorman,
married-
whatever.
he married
There's been
all
a lot
of
of claims that may have happened.
Because I know in my family,
but not out of wedlock. No.
We've certainly had children out of wedlock in my family. Like that's full disclosure in my extended family.
No,
You probably
five-
acknowledge them and don't
there's
only tell
never,
people
there's
magazine
never a
about them.
question of not acknowledging them. It's like, oh, look, we have discovered that you exist. Come be in the family now. That's what you do. And I think that's relatable to a lot of Americans too.
And she's
'cause,
6
like, a
now.
ton of
She's
Americans
6 years
have that,
old. She's not like 2.
But like a ton of I think I got confused with something else, but a ton of Americans have children and they don't have, outside of marriage. That's true for a lot of families. And a lot of families say, oh, now we're going to bring you into the family. And to see the president behave so recklessly and so disingenuously with real family, with blood family like that is disgusting.
When you say president, of course, you
Disgusting.
mean Jill Biden.
Yeah, both of them.
So Joshua, walk me through that. What is it about the left that's so enamored with power that they'd be willing to do something so horribly and actually evil as that?
You never heard me anything like that before, have you? Yes. So the Jill Biden narrative that we're describing right now, it almost sounds like something from the Bible.
Wow.
It is that archetypal, that ancient even. Something that is a fun exercise is to get lost on Wikipedia about lesser known wars, lesser known time periods, and you see things happen where this one person stole something from someone else, and then their family was massacred, and then that blew up into something, and it always comes down to two people having a problem with each other. Even something like the Bolshevik Revolution, it goes to the fact that Vladimir Lenin's older brother was captured and executed by the White Army.
Yeah.
And it's always down to two people, every one of these conflicts, be they communist revolutions or be they in the modern day. It's always one person. It sounds like in this case, it might be the hostility or the envy, the jealousy that Jill had for Michelle.
People say that the Iraq War was because George Bush's father, George Bush Jr.'s father, had an assassination attempt for Saddam Hussein.
Well, he said that at the time. Do you remember George Bush said, "Look what they tried to do to my daddy." He said it.
Yeah, and you can't discount
I remember
that. Or
distinctly.
Putin had an older brother who died during the siege of Leningrad. So when he talks about, oh, we're going to Ukraine to denazify it, I think there's a tendency in the West to kind of put that in sort of like the anti-fascist narrative that we have, and oh, everyone I don't like is a Nazi, and like, oh, he's just claiming moral spirit. But no, I think that actually means something personal to him. Like, they killed my brother, and now I'm worried about them taking. And you could debate about whether or not it's true. Certainly for the Azov Battalion, it is. And they've got me on list after list after list. So Nazis are going after a Polish guy. You know how it is, and we certainly do. But I think to him, to your point, it actually means something personal.
Yes, and it usually is. If we look at each of these stories that we cover in the book on humans, there's always individuals who either say, "I will be the winner who takes all, no matter what," and they always push it so far. And it's the one on the left who pushes it farther than anyone else who's willing to push it is always the one who has power. Joseph Stalin, he obliterated all competition. Mao Zedong obliterated all competition during the Cultural Revolution. Anyone who is a threat, and then it's the people who stand as their righteous foil, who always are the ones with the father's heart, who say, "Dad's home, not while Dad's here." That's the spirit of Francisco Franco. That's the spirit of George Washington. That is, even to an extent, that's the Pinochet versus Allende.
Well, and when they talk about like, oh, they want to get rid of Joe Biden, I'm like, well, this is the same thing that leftists always do. It's they always have to get rid of the previous generation of leftists and say, you're not revolutionary enough, you're against us. So it's the Bolsheviks that take out the Mensheviks. This is why you have the February Revolution and then the October Revolution, because Lenin says, no, this isn't going far enough. This is why you have the Reign of Terror, because Robespierre and the Jacobin Club says, nope, it's not going far enough, fast enough. Stalin, of course, takes out all of his opposition, rises to power. Then, for anyone who's even seen it's a comedy, but Death of Stalin is a pretty good. So you have Beria versus Khrushchev and a few others.
We're seeing it right now with Pride,
and
though.
we're seeing. Even in Pride, what do you mean?
We're seeing it with Pride. So I don't know if you guys were tracking Pride over the weekend. We had a lot of
people
out.
I spent my weekend just watching those Pride
Toronto
videos.
and San Francisco and Seattle and whatever else. But
we had reporters out. Libby had reporters out.
Yeah, which was really cool. I loved that. But anyway, what kept happening was
Not the content, you mean the coverage.
I really like these reporters.
I'm trying to help you, Libby. I'm trying to help you out here.
Beth Beish, they were out there doing great work, and I loved watching them be in their element.
Do we have like hazard pay or something for them when they go do that?
Why are you bringing that up?
I was just saying, like, some of this footage is like
they need therapy.
Yeah, is right. Like, do we have an employee wellness program?
Okay, wait, hold on. Libby needs
we have health insurance.
Libby needs to explain what these events were.
Yeah.
So there were these Pride events in Toronto and Seattle, New York, San Francisco, all over the place, Washington, wherever else. But what was going on, and you had people out in New York, which was fascinating, covering
Alad.
Yeah, Alad was out,
and I'll shout out to Tenet Media. Taylor Hansen.
Taylor was great too.
He had
Taylor's
one of the worst videos.
It was so disgusting.
I'm gonna say it was two men engaging in an adult activity involving the mouth and the lower portion in public
with urine,
in front of children, with urine, and the police said, "You choose your battles."
Right. And Katie Davis-Court did this great sort of Megan Rapinoe confrontation where she was like, Megan, why do you support, men and women's sports? What's the deal? And Megan didn't have anything to say, but that went super viral. That was cool. But what was fascinating was that in Pride, you had counter protesters of, anti-Israel demonstrations.
Oh,
so you had, they kept doing was they kept shutting down Pride to have this further leftist demonstration, and they were saying like no pride during genocide.
Oh, right.
And all of this kind of stuff. And they were saying like, right.
Identity for Palestine.
Identity for Palestine. They were saying, and they were also in Toronto, and this is something Beth Beisch got, which was really fascinating. You had the pride protest, the counter pride protesters complaining about the sponsors of the pride parade, saying that the sponsors of the pride parade were a big problem. And I thought that means,
Go on.
right? And that means now that pride is the establishment. Pride is the man.
Of course it is.
And it's being attacked by the further left.
Look, NASA
So
had
Pride
a
is
float
gonna
in
get-
San Francisco Pride. Like,
Sure.
it's
The
establishment.
FBI
Sure.
is marching in
But
pride
But
parades.
what's fascinating is the far left now realizes that pride is the establishment, and they are seeking to take down the thing that facilitated their own ability to pee on each other and give blowjobs and
Joshua, have you ever seen a snake eat its own tail?
Family friendly, Libby.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't use any curse
As
words.
of this weekend, it has a new meaning.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So,
dude.
I'll explain because we always ask people not to swear.
Oh.
And we always ask people not to swear. And so the story was several years ago when we first started the show, I used a phrase that I thought was PG-13 and probably fine.
What was it? Say it.
I'm not going to, but I will describe it. It is a group of men all standing in a big circle, patting each other on the back. It's a bunch
The
of
Republican Party.
It's a bunch of jerks standing in a circle, all congratulating each other. And when I said it in the simplest terms, we got a bunch of emails from people who were laughing. They were like, it's funny, I just want to let you know, but my children are asking me what that meant, and I don't know what to tell them. And I was like, we'll try to keep things more family friendly when we do the show because people watch us on their TV and their kids are in the room or in their car or whatever. So now I just say it's a circle of jerks all patting each other on the back.
Yes.
That's
Now
like when I took my son on the subway when he was about 7 years old, and it was a subway advertisement takeover for a dating app, and every sign on the subway said D2F. And my son goes, Mom, what's D2F? And I was like, oh dear God.
Can I respond to what Libby just said though? Because about the fact that the police were there. So that you have
In San Francisco,
that you have
yeah.
police officers viewing these acts, and this I believe in Taylor's video as well. He films the children, he films the act of the circle of jerks, and he then films the police officers watching the children in proximity to the acts. And I remember, so we were talking about Unhumans, and I was tweeting about it. People were like, oh, blah, 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 you're doing this book. They said, why are you doing a book about a communist revolution? Because we've got all these guns in America, and that'll never happen. And then I said, oh, really? Well, what if the new communists said it was all in the name of tolerance and diversity, and half the people in the country just went along with it, and the police said we're not allowed to act because that would be intolerant? Because that's what's going on right now.
That's what happened in San Francisco.
I have it on video.
That's what Taylor and Savannah saw. Yeah.
And I got to tell you, like, there's a lot of conservatives that are like, will the conservatives stop sharing the stuff to own the libs? We don't need to see it. You do need to see it. Sorry. The reason parents don't know the stuff is in their schools, the reason people don't know this is happening in public on their streets is because of that mentality of don't let anybody know because I don't want to see it. Well, unfortunately, the world is not fair. It's disgusting. It's brutal. There are people who go out there every single day and they face real combat and they see people getting their legs blown off. And then people are like, I don't want to watch that stuff. Well, then, the people who are on the front line see 100 times worse than what you're going to see at home.
That's why they hide the Ukraine footage.
And absolutely. And those videos they've posted where the Ukrainians are laughing and gloating when they drop a grenade on a Russian soldier. Dude, that is disgusting, okay? But war is bad. Trump was right. I want the dying to stop. The issue I see is when you refuse to acknowledge what they're doing on the streets and the police refuse to actually enforce the law, I want you to ask yourself what you are setting up at home for the brave men and women in uniform to come home to. Because you don't want to see it. You don't want to think about it. You don't want to be at the meetings dealing with it. I don't want to see that stuff. Don't post it in front of me. Okay, when that dude comes back from overseas after, Biden claimed no one died.
Right.
What a disgusting statement.
And 3 people
know, a lot of
died in
that's-
January in Jordan.
And now some man, some woman, they come home with their best friend in a casket, and they come back to the streets of their hometown and they see that depravity because you didn't want to deal with it. Man, that's too brutal. The least we can do at home is inform people, be active, and say, we're going to make sure we keep the house clean for when the brave men and women come home from the real duty.
But do you really think that And this is what I always push back on people and saying, like, do you really think that this isn't a form of communism? Do you really think that cultural Marxism doesn't exist and all Marxism is just economic? No, it's very clear that after the fall of the Soviet Union, they were like, all right, the whole economic class thing, like, it's not working. The free market is just working too well. Let's turn this to ethnicity. Let's turn this to gender. Let's turn it to religion. Let's turn it to race. Then Occupy kicks off and they're like, all right, we really need to turn on the race stuff around here because we're getting totally slaughtered. Everyone out there is talking about the banks. Everyone politically slaughtered. Everyone out there is talking about the banks. Everyone is talking about their wealth inequality. And this, by the way, is when you actually get people who rise up in real communist uprising, is when wealth inequality gets too bad. This is how you get Venezuela going from one of the richest countries in the hemisphere per capita to what it is now. This is how you get that. And time again throughout history, I don't care if it's France, I don't care if it's Russia, I don't care if it's Spain, I don't care if it's China, anywhere around the world, any place, anytime, this is what happens because this is what they do. This is what they always do. And just because they've changed it to the phraseology of tolerance or diversity or import millions of people, we're gonna do that, and it's gonna be great because you're just cogs in a machine, and all cultures are equal and everyone's equal. No, it's.
But do you think Americans are well versed enough in history to be able to identify patterns like that?
I think someone should write a book that would potentially
realize
help
what I was setting up there.
Yes.
Their background.
We're calling out. We are calling out the cultural Marxist lens of reality, which is the oppressor versus oppressed. And I think the San Francisco scenario demonstrates that, where the police view themselves as the role of the oppressor.
So true.
White cops with guns.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Obviously, I'm the oppressor to these people, so I have to back TF away because what I am viewing is not perverted acts in front of children. What I'm viewing is
Expressions of love.
yes,
An oppressed,
of the
marginalized group.
Yes, an oppressed, marginalized group. Love is love. Is what I'm witnessing.
They were
right now.
spanking each other's naked bottom.
Love is love.
Yes, and so the idea that communism is a thing of the past, no, it's a thing of the present. But red has many shades, and this thing is a chameleon. In any way that this movement of anti-civilization, I have a physicist friend who calls it all of it. He calls it entropy, civilizational, social entropy.
Yes.
And in the book we call it we call these forces that which accelerates the end of everything. And if we understand that that is the intended purpose of the oppressor versus oppressed worldview, that lens, then anything they can do to get power to destroy everything. There's a verse in the Bible where Jesus says that the enemy comes only to steal and kill and destroy. That is the force of unhumanity in the world. And we were having a conversation with Charlie Kirk a few weeks ago.
That was a great. When does that release? Because that was a terrific interview. I watched that live.
It should be coming out this week. I think he has it on the member section, but I've been like, Charlie, put it out this week.
That was a terrific. That
You
was
were in the room when
I
we
was
did
in the
it,
room, yeah, because I got cleared out of Secret Service and I missed my war room hit, and I was like, oh, I'm going to check this out.
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe, and we'll see you all there.